I thought I brought my water down, but I guess I did not.
I also don't have any water right here.
Yeah,
We are ill prepared.
we are. You'd think that we'd be professionals by now, coming up on our 4-year anniversary.
Woo! But also, we can't be professionals because we don't get paid. We're enthusiastic amateurs.
We should show more enthusiasm for hydrating.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I shall be working on my books of faces. I feel like I worked on this last time, but maybe that was 2 weeks ago. Those guys.
Yes. Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago because last time I was working on my cross stitch.
Right. I remember. So, my beautiful lamp here is very, very finicky, and I think there's a short in the cord. So if I just bump it, it's like, "Oh, you want to be off?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to be off. I want to be on.
I want the opposite of that.
I want the opposite." Usually, I hang that whole wad of cords up so that it's not something I'm tripping over, but I'll do that later. I have scheduled it's coming to mind because look, I've got it all written down here.
I cannot see it, but I take your word for it.
It's my final oncology appointment is on April 12th. The last check-in, like 5 years, is when they stop treating you like an ex-girlfriend and they just send you on your way. And
I don't know how you treat your ex-girlfriends, but I don't know if a yearly check-in is what I would personally think of.
an ex-girlfriend that you've got to work with. I don't know. It's funny because I was trying to describe to somebody what I couldn't remember my current oncologist's name because the one that I love left after she got me cured, and they got somebody else in. And the first time I saw him was like early last year, and he has a German name that starts with B, but I don't remember anything else. He's nice, he's competent, but he wasn't there for the whole. He's my medical Imra Hill. Turns up and wants to be a main character, and it's like, you missed the boat. You are not one of us. You think you are, but you weren't there, bitch. And if he's watching, hi, I love you anyway. You're great. You're great.
First of all, he's not watching, and second of all, if he was watching, he couldn't be sure it was him because you don't remember his name.
What are the odds that she had 2 doctors that fit all these criteria?
You never know.
That's right. Could be anyone.
Oh.
Anyway.
Oh.
And I don't 4 years in, I don't expect an audience unless people get really hooked on the edited versions that I've started working on. Trying to clear out space for working here, it's not easy. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I was going to say, if they get hooked on the edited versions, they're probably not going to go back and watch the unedited ones.
We'll just call them the extended editions. Have a whole swim lane of extended editions, and it's all of our freaking daily minutia. And so we watch the Maker Secret Santa on YouTube, and every year we pick up a new maker or artist or whatever that we like, that we're like, we'll watch this person, and they've got a whole backlog. And this year we picked up Ali Spagnola, who is, it's just hard to explain, neurotic golden retriever of a human being who's brilliant at lots and lots of things, but also has just that golden retriever energy. Anyway, she's cool, and she had a video about doing CrossFit during when lockdown started, and how to maintain social distance and wiping down all the surfaces they touched at the park. And they were like, God, we're going to be doing this for 2 weeks. And Jason and I looked at each other and we were like, oh, yeah. We all thought it would last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
We sure did.
oh, those sweet summer children that we all were. Wow. I mean,
Yep.
I remember it, but then when you hear it in what was real time, you're like, oh God.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hell of a thing.
It's a hell of a
People are
thing.
like, oh, this could still be going on in like July, and you're sitting here 4 years later, like, sure, July.
Oh,
Oh, goodness.
I would
Unrelated.
love to get a glimpse into the parallel universe where like more than half the population abided by the rule. Oh wait, that exists. It's New Zealand.
Yeah, and unfortunately after that they had a big backlash and now they've elected a far right government that's trying to fuck with the Maori. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's nothing gold can stay. But the point is,
indeed.
actually the point is nothing related to what I'm about to say, but you mentioned new creators and I was like, have I mentioned to you the prickly alpaca or do you watch prickly alpaca?
I've heard of the prickly alpaca and I don't remember if it's from you.
I think you would enjoy her videos. She's a maker, so she does like some sewing, some sculpting, and some digital art where she'll take like an inspiration image that's not a person and turn it into a character
Cool.
and like narrate her experience. But she's someone that we would be friends with. Like her lav mic is clipped to a dagger. So whenever she's doing like the opener, she's just holding a dagger.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
That's a very good idea.
her videos are really fun. So I can definitely recommend that. I
Excellent.
also stumbled on, well, I didn't stumble onto, but I started watching Batman the Animated Series. Have you watched that ever?
Some, yeah, because Jason was a big enthusiast, so I caught a few episodes. The
Art,
animation, what?
the art, like the Art Deco backgrounds and shit.
The art, and they painted all of it on black, so that's how it achieved its signature look. The way things move always bothered me. Um, I think they animated on sixes or something, like it wasn't. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's not fours. 6 frames a second. I don't know. It was a little. They couldn't afford to make it really smooth and Tartakovsky, I suppose. But
They
but
couldn't,
this,
but I feel like that almost works because it makes it feel more period to the period that it's set in. Like
we
if it was
we got we're getting caught up on at least the storytelling and what Walter thinks of it all on Channel Awesome, because every May he does a retrospective of Batman the Animated Series, and he calls it Bat May, and it's an absolute delight. So if you were like, I don't want to watch all the episodes, which ones are the good ones to watch? Go ahead and watch his 5-minute retrospectives, and he'll let you know whether this is like absolute must watch or you could probably give it a pass.
I don't I if I see commentary on something that I'm watching, it tends to destroy my desire to watch it. I don't know why that is.
I'm the opposite, which
I
is why
know.
we do this commentary for this books we're reading.
Okay, but this is different because this is for a book.
Yeah.
And if you were like to sit down and tell me the whole story of the Silmarillion, then I wouldn't want to read it anymore.
Okay, I gotcha. If
So
I told you this chapter's worth reading and this one you can probably give a miss, and these are the 4 of the 7 sons of Feanor that are important, would that be useful to you?
no, that would just
Until a
make me
lie,
be
they're
like,
all
well, now I know what
important.
happens.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm always like, no spoilers, because once I know what happens, I'm like not motivated to find out anymore. So I stop
That's
watching.
so
Like,
fucking strange. I can invest more in a story if I know where it's going. Otherwise, I just have the anxiety and I don't absorb as much of it.
well, and it's also weird because I am a rereader and a rewatcher, but I have to experience it for the first time myself. So like I still haven't seen Good Omen season 2 because I found out what happened at the end. I got spoiled and then I didn't want to watch it.
Okay. All
I don't
right.
know, it's weird.
I hear you. The only thing that bugged me about Good Omens season 2 is that I think I've told you, they recycled actors into new roles. So half the actors are from the first season, but they're completely different characters. Which would work if it was everyone, but the fact that half of them are the same characters they were before, it just doesn't work for me. It's so random. It feels very like community theater production. And I spent an episode and a half wondering why the fuck Madame Tracy works for Hell now. Yeah, because she's a demon in this one, and I'm like, okay, but I wasn't like, okay. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's a really big character to recycle into someone else without mentioning it. Like it if it was background characters like random angels or demons, like okay.
No, it's
Madame Tracy, that's a lot.
Madame Tracy was a big one. A couple of the nuns who had speaking roles and were rather prominent characters in their nun form are now completely different people who run shops in the street. And just like, you're like,
It's very odd.
it's very odd.
Like it
But
always gives me a jolt when you're watching a show and like they have someone in the first episode and then they like in the pilot and then that actor doesn't sign on for the whole show and they switch out the actor. That's always confusing and it feels like that.
that's
Like, oh, this
why,
guy
yeah,
does not look like that. Wait a second. Like I started watching the original A Team, which by the way is delightful.
it is.
But the pilot face is played by a completely different guy than
Yep.
the second episode, and I'm like, but that's not that doesn't look like.
There was another show, Being Human. I watched
Yes,
the original British Being Human. The only actor who came back for the series was the werewolf, and I can't remember that actor's name, but he's a darling. I love him. He's awesome with his ears. But
yes,
but it
but
was
yeah,
weird
but
to me that everybody else wasn't that.
right. It's like, yeah, very.
Yeah.
It's always a jolt. The thing that amuses me a lot about because I watched the movie, the like 2002 or whatever movie, The A Team, which I remembered enjoying at the time because it's ridiculous, and I enjoy it again because it's ridiculous.
You spin me right round, baby.
And then they're in the tank and they start shooting the gun, and someone's like, I think they're trying to fly that tank. And I'm like, that is the correct tone of voice. Like, what the fuck?
Oh,
Yeah, so that one's ridiculous. But so like in the movie, they introduce Liam Neeson by him like getting beat up and then heroically escaping and lighting up a cigar from the shadows. And through the whole thing, he's this genius and he's when he said he always is one step ahead and he says, I love it when a plan comes together because it did. And then he watched the show and Hannibal is introduced in a fucking Godzilla costume in a B movie coming up out of the water. And he only ever says, I love it when a plan comes together when he's completely fucked up and nothing has worked out the way he planned at all. And the entire first chase scene, he's wearing the Godzilla costume through the whole thing. He kept saying, "Face, grab my tail," and then like,
oh, I haven't seen it since I was a kid. I need to go back and do that. So what you're saying is that the what was that 90s movie? or early noughties movie was Hannibal's fan fiction about himself.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is who I always pictured myself as.
Pretty much. Although, man, that actor, George Burris, I think is his name. He's so good. At one point, since one of the villains is like, "You have a very irritating manner, Senor," and he's like, "I know. I've tried everything. I even read that book about making friends and influencing people. It just doesn't seem to stick." I'm like, completely deadpan.
Oh my goodness. All right. Where are you finding this? Is it streaming? Do you rent it? What?
I definitely didn't illegally torrent it.
Oh, okay, cool. I mean, that's
It's
how
not
I'm
streaming
lifting
anywhere.
our old videos. It's the only way without paying YouTube extra money.
Which we're not going to do.
We're not
We
going to
don't
do
give
that.
YouTube money for things.
We don't give Google money for things either because they keep being like, hey, you're running out of storage space. And I'm like, then I will delete these 72 pictures of whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I've stopped using Google for searching completely because the search results are so shit now that they're all sponsored. It's like,
oh, I hate the sponsored. That was a bad idea.
yeah, DuckDuckGo now is a better search engine and it doesn't save your data. So my friend was talking about like, oh yeah, sometimes I don't mind the targeted advertising if I'm like shopping for something and I'm like, I never see targeted ads ever because I use DuckDuckGo and a ad blocker on Firefox.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see shit.
I can mention cute shoes. In fact, I just mentioned cute shoes in the presence of several devices, and I will get Facebook ads for the next 2 weeks for cute shoes until they realize I'm not actually going to spend the money. But at least I get to look at cute shoes.
There you go. And you have many good reasons to have an Alexa, but also you have an Alexa in your house, and thus you are living with a digital narc at all times.
At all times. Fortunately, my life is an open book, and my family likewise, so they can do what they will. Also, we're really polite to her, so she'll defend us if the machine uprising happens anytime soon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to. Half of the shit that companies claim is AI is actually just them paying someone in the global south to pretend to be a robot. Like, AI is not as
It's a man behind the curtain.
It's a man behind the curtain. Like, you remember when they were like, oh, there's going to be these Amazon stores and you walk in and then you walk out and AI will scan your purchases and charge it and like no humans will be involved? 3 moderators for every transaction. Moderators.
No, I'm fine with that. That's fine. That's proof again that humans need humans. We just like to pretend we don't need humans, but that's fucking delightful. Like, and hey, if the moderators are getting paid, which they probably aren't. That's the problem. That's the problem.
I'm not fine with it because the moderators aren't getting paid fairly or acknowledged that they're actually the people doing the work.
Right. I think the fair pay is more important than the acknowledgement, but I'm not them.
But if they're unacknowledged, then they can get away with
its employees well. It can afford to. It could be the best employer the world has ever seen. It could treat its people well. It could be like, that mid 20th century industrialist golden age where Carnegie and all his folks were like, let's prove that we can be good people and millionaires. That.
Yeah, I don't think that actually is what they did.
It sort of is. That's why there's still libraries all over the country.
I mean, there's going to be libraries named for Musk and Bezos too, but I don't think it's because they're good people.
No, but it would be because they funded the libraries because they wanted to be perceived as good people.
Yeah, I don't think that ethical people are capable of becoming extremely rich.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
That's not that's not ethically feasible.
It is not, and that's why Amazon
why they don't behave ethically is a bit of it's a rhetorical question. We know the answer,
right? Yeah, it's like if they paid people fairly for their work, they never would have become as big as they are.
Right? Oh, damn it! All right.
All right. Speaking of people who are unethical, let's talk about Melkor.
Oh, God. He is the source and spirit of all of this crap that we're talking about, even.
Now, even while Feanor and the craftsmen of the Noldor worked with delight, foreseeing no end to their labors, and while the sons of Indis grew to their full stature, the noontide of Valinor was drawing to its close. For it came to pass that Melkor, as the Valar had decreed, completed the term of his bondage, dwelling for 3 ages in the duress of Mandos, alone.
Okay, all right, once again, Valar, that's not how you rehabilitate someone. Solitary confinement? Are you kidding me?
I was about to say, solitary confinement is inhumane. That's not going to work. You're terrible administrators.
And that's exactly what made him, isolating himself was what made him into what he is.
Yeah.
Absolute garbage. They should have visited him every day with chocolates and music. He would have been a completely different man. Oh, well.
Mm-hmm.
We know.
At length, as Manwë had promised, he was brought again before the thrones of the Valar. Then he looked upon their glory and their bliss, and envy was in his heart. Yeah, no shit, because he's been in fucking solitary confinement. Of course envy was in his heart.
Right? Envy would be in my heart too, bitches.
He looked upon the children of Ilúvatar that sat at the feet of the mighty, and hatred filled him. He looked upon the wealth of bright gems, and he lusted for them. But he hid his thoughts, and postponed his vengeance. Before the gates of Valmar, Melkor abased himself at the feet of Manwë and sued for pardon, vowing that if he might be made only the least of the free people of Valinor, he would aid the Valar in all their works, and most of all in the healing of the many hurts that he had done to the world. And Nienna aided his prayer, but Mandos was silent, because Mandos is not an idiot.
Yeah, Mandos is like, I don't buy it. Don't go in there.
You know, I have an insight into despair and all of the bad stuff that the rest of you don't want to think about. And I'm telling you, this is a bad idea.
This is a bad idea.
Then Manwë granted him pardon. Idiot! But the Valar would not yet suffer him to depart beyond their sight and vigilance, and he was constrained to dwell within the gates of Valmar. But fair-seeming were all the words and deeds of Melkor in that time. Both the Valar and the Eldar had profit from his aid and counsel if they sought it. And therefore in a while he was given leave to go freely about the land. And it seemed to Manwë that the evil of Melkor was cured. God, they're so dumb!
They're so dumb.
How are they supposed to be so wise, but they're actually so dumb? For Manwë was free from evil and could not comprehend it.
There it is.
There we go. That's why.
Yep.
And he knew that in the beginning, in the thought of Ilúvatar, Melkor had been even as he. And he saw not the depths of Melkor's heart, and did not perceive that all love had departed from him forever. But Ulmo was not deceived, and Tulkas clenched his hands whenever he saw Melkor his foe go by. For if Tulkas is slow to wrath, he is slow also to forget. But they obeyed the judgment of Manwë. For those who will defend authority against rebellion must not themselves rebel. Maybe this is why you shouldn't defend authority blindly.
Right? And maybe they weren't defending authority so much as they were defending, life, sanity, beauty.
Right? But, the whole point here is that they're defending, the reason they obey it is because they were defending authority. There's a song I'm thinking of. Oh, yeah. I fight authority, authority always wins. Anyway. Now, in his heart, Melkor most hated the Eldar, both because they were fair and joyful, and because in them he saw the reason for the arising of the Valar and his own downfall. Therefore all the more did he feign love for them and seek their friendship, and he offered them the service of his lore and labor in any great deed that they would do. The Vanyar indeed held him in suspicion, for they dwelt in the light of the trees and were content. And to the Teleri he gave small heed, thinking them of little worth, tools too weak for his designs. But the Noldor took delight in the hidden knowledge that he could reveal to them, and some hearkened to words that it would have been better for them never to have heard. Melkor indeed declared afterwards that Feanor had learned much art from him in secret, and had been instructed by him in the greatest of all his works. But he lied in his lust and his envy, for none of the Eldalier ever hated Melkor more than Feanor, son of Finwë, who first named him Morgoth. And snared though he was in the webs of Melkor's malice against the Valar, he held no converse with him and took no counsel from him. For Feanor was driven by the fire of his own heart only, working ever swiftly and alone. And he asked the aid and sought the counsel of none that dwelt in Aman, great or small, save only, and for a little while, of Nerdanel the Wise, his wife.
And once again, we have a character whose solitude proves his undoing.
The title of this episode, by the way, is We Are Not Team Feanor.
We are not Team Feanor. Feanor is I mean, at least he doesn't like, I don't know, I feel like it would be more effective storytelling if he was like, here's this guy and he's really great and he's really creative and enthusiastic and the fire of his spirit is so bold and he loved his mother so dearly and make us like him and then let him fall. But it's like, and here's Feanor, he's gonna fall, he's gonna be a total dickwad and he's going to bring about the destruction of everything. But he was so good at what he did, and we're like, yeah, it's too late, ship has sailed, dude.
Yeah. Here's a guy who's super arrogant and no one could ever tell him anything because he thought he was the best at everything, and he was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't care. As I have frequently said to actual people who suffer from a similar delusion, intelligence is not a personality trait.
It is not. And and it's not terribly important in the long run. Anakin Skywalker, he's got the Anakin Vader thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Chapter 7 of the Silmarils. Finally!
Finally!
And the
yay!
unrest of the Noldor.
Oh, short book, hey!
In that time were made those things that afterwards were most renowned of all the works of the elves. For Feanor, being come to his full might, was filled with a new thought, or it may be that some shadow of foreknowledge came to him of the doom that drew near. And he pondered how the light of the trees, the glory of the blessed realm, might be preserved imperishable. Then he began a long and secret labor, and he summoned all his lore and all his power and his subtle skill, and at the end of all he made the Silmarils. As 3 great jewels they were in form, but not until the end, when Feanor shall return, who perished ere the sun was made, and sits now in the halls of awaiting, and comes no more among his kin. Not until the sun passes and the moon falls shall it be known of what substance they were made. Speaking of spoilers, like the crystal of diamonds it appeared, and yet was more strong than adamant, so that no violence could mar it or break it within the kingdom of Arda. Isn't adamant also diamond?
I'm not actually sure.
Hang on.
Right?
I'm pretty sure it is, because I think adamas is like the Greek word for diamond. Hang on.
What the heck is adamant? Other than an adjective for unmoving. It's diamondium! Nothing can break diamondium, not even God 1 and God 2 put together.
An adamant is an imaginary stone of impenetrable hardness. Historically, the word applied to actual stones and other substances believed to be impenetrable. In the 17th century, the word was used as a synonym of diamond.
Okay.
The noun adamant comes from a Latin word meaning material of extreme hardness or diamond.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yet that crystal was to the Silmarils, as is the body to the children of Ilúvatar, the house of its inner fire, that is within it, and yet in all parts of it, and is its life. And the inner fire of the Silmarils Feanor made of the blended light of the trees of Valinor, which lives in them yet, though the tree. And the inner fire of the Silmarils Feanor made of the blended light of the trees of Valinor, which lives in them yet, though the trees have long withered and shine no more. Therefore, even in the darkness of the deepest treasury, the Silmarils of their own radiance shone like the stars of Varda. And yet, as they were indeed living things, they rejoiced in light and received it, and gave it back in hues more marvelous than before.
So we've seen this before in the Arkenstone.
Oh yeah, there's a whole theory that the Arkenstone is a Silmaril.
Because one of them got thrown in a volcano, and what could the Lonely Mountain be but a extinct volcano? So, yeah.
It makes sense. Also, people do nutty things for Silmarils, and they did nutty things for the Arkenstone.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's it was nice to have that question answered, at least with a fan theory, because I was always... in The Hobbit, he doesn't even mention the Arkenstone until like page 200. And at that point, I'm like, wait, this story has a MacGuffin? Like,
a belated MacGuffin?
A belated MacGuffin.
It's not really a Chekhov's gun because it wasn't in the first act. So now it's going off in the third act. And we're like, when did he get a gun?
Right? He just pulls it out and you're like, what? One of the very few things that I liked about the Hobbit movies was that they gave the dwarfs an actual plan and brought up the Arkenstone right away. I was like, oh, that's smart. That's clever. I like that.
This is reminding me that I think I have some sort of Lord of the Rings thing saved somewhere, but I'll try to find it. Well, it's just taking forever to load. Okay, anyway, so there were 3 of them at this point.
Yeah.
Have we talked about the why not Silmarils thing?
No, maybe.
Okay, so there's a post that says if you like someone, you should give them a nice rock. Not like anything special, just a cool rock that you think they'll like. And then someone responded with a picture of the Arkenstone. And someone said, why just 1 rock? Why not 3? Why not Silmarils? And the answer was there is an entire book on the subject of why not Silmarils.
Silmarils, yes. I have seen this. Oh my god, that made me laugh.
All who dwelt in Aman were filled with wonder and delight at the words of Feanor.
Works.
And Varda hallowed the Silmarils, so that thereafter no mortal flesh, nor hands unclean, nor anything of evil will might touch them, but it was scorched and withered. And Mandos foretold that the fates of Arda, earth, sea, and air lay locked within them. The heart of Feanor was fast bound to these things that he himself had made. Then Melkor lusted for the Silmarils, and the very memory of their radiance was a gnawing fire in his heart. Melkor has some weird kinks also.
Yeah.
From that time forth, inflamed by this desire, he sought ever more eagerly how he should destroy Feanor and end the friendship of the Valar and the Elves. But he dissembled his purposes with cunning, and nothing of his malice could yet be seen in the semblance that he wore. Long was he at work, and slow at first, and barren was his labor. But he that sows lies in the end shall not lack of a harvest.
Oh, that is a nice one.
That is a fucking banger of a line.
That is a line that's incredibly apt right now.
I was thinking, yeah, that's like
on the international fucking stage. Damn.
Yeah. And soon he may rest from toil indeed, while others reap and sow in his stead. Oh shit, it got even more so.
It got better.
It got better.
Better.
Ever Melkor found some ears that would heed him, and some tongues that would enlarge what they had heard. And his lies passed from friend to friend as secrets, of which the knowledge proved the teller wise. Bitterly did the Noldor atone for the folly of their open ears in the days that followed after. The Noldor basically got caught by QAnon.
They did. They did. They were innocent, man. They've never been lied to.
It's a very Galaxy Quest moment.
Right?
Oh, I found the post. This is Lord of the Rings related.
Yeah.
I feel like we significantly underestimate the amount of weird fucking people who must live in Rivendell. It's a sanctuary. It's run by a really nice cosmic horror. It's a place of healing. It's definitely haunted by now. And it's absolutely the place where all the elves who aren't allowed in civil society end up. There's an old Feanorian diehard living next to one of Thingol's bodyguards, and they hate each other and constantly argue about who gets to guard Elrond. There's at least one person who's absolutely supposed to be dead, hiding there under a fake name. There's a whole flock of half-elves just kind of vibing. I assume there's at least one reformed orc who, works in the library.
Hey, look, we're not the only ones.
I know, that's why I saved it. I'd love to hear about all the strange people who've washed up in Rivendell over the years, because I bet there are some stories there.
Right? Likewise. Hey, that'd be a fun, collection of fan fiction to read.
That would be. Little Kickstarter anthology. Tales
Love
from
it.
Rivendell.
Tales from Rivendell.
And do it in the story of, what's that book?
Gavagan's
We
Bar?
had a book that was a collection of short stories, and all of them were, really weird, and they all took place in this one bar. You know the one I'm thinking of?
Gavagan's Bar. It was totally Gavagan's Bar.
Gavagan's Bar, yeah. It would be, in the style of that, where it's just and here's a weird story I heard one day in Rivendell, and then this totally, epic tale, and then it's and then he came back home, and now he drinks, and whatever.
You know what this crescent moon above us reminds me of? The day that so-and-so came. Yeah, that.
Yep. Anywho, back to Melkor being a dick.
Yep.
When he saw that many leaned towards him, Melkor would often walk among them, and amid his fair words others were woven, so subtly that many who heard them believed in recollection that they arose from their own thought. Even if you're an elf, you are not immune to propaganda.
Yep.
Visions he would conjure in their hearts of the mighty realms that they could have ruled at their own will, in power and freedom in the east. And then whispers went abroad that the Valar had brought the Eldar to Aman because of their jealousy, fearing that the beauty of the Quendi and the Maker's power that Iluvatar had bequeathed to them would grow too great for the Valar to govern, as the elves waxed and spread over the wide lands of the world. That doesn't
That didn't. No.
that phrasing didn't age well.
No.
In those days,
Wax
moreover,
and spread strangely means something completely different now. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Yep. Although it is also a meaning that would lead to a population increase.
Oh, I feel ashamed.
In those days, moreover, though the Valar knew indeed of the coming of men that were to be, the elves as yet knew not of it, for Manwë had not revealed it to them. Not smart, again.
Yeah.
But Melkor spoke to them in secret of mortal men, seeing how the silence of the Valar might be twisted to evil. Little he knew yet concerning men, for engrossed with his own thought and the music, he had paid small heed to the third theme of Iluvatar. But now the whisper went among the elves that Manwë held them captive, so that men might come and supplant them in the kingdoms of Middle-earth, for the Valar saw that they might more easily sway this short-lived and weaker race, defrauding the elves of the inheritance of Iluvatar. Small truth was there in this, and little have the Valar ever prevailed to sway the wills of men, but many of the Noldor believed, or half-believed, the evil words. I like that he's yeah, the Valar never managed to get men to do anything.
Yeah, no. Sure, it sounded feasible, but it really wasn't.
Can't tell us nothing.
Not a bit of it.
Thus, ere the Valar were aware, the peace of Valinor was poisoned. the Noldor began to murmur against them, and many became filled with pride, forgetting how much of what they had and knew came to them in gift from the Valar. Fiercest burned the new flame of desire for freedom and wider realms in the eager heart of Feanor. And Melkor laughed in his secrecy, for to that mark his lies had been addressed, hating Feanor above all, and lusting ever for the Silmarils. But these he was not suffered to approach, for though at great feasts Feanor would wear them blazing on his brow, at other times they were guarded close, locked in the deep chambers of his hoard in Tirion. For Feanor began to love the Silmarils with a greedy love, and grudged the sight of them to all save to his father and his 7 sons. He seldom remembered now that the light within them was not his own.
I have heard a story, you have heard the story too, about Galadriel.
Which one?
The Feanor made the Silmarils because she would not give him a piece of her hair.
I don't know if I have heard that story.
He asked for hair from her shining head, and she said, "No, I don't trust you." And that was like the impetus, apparently. I don't know where this story comes from. I would have to hunt it down. But so
it sure makes it meaningful when Gimli asks for the same thing and she gives it to him.
Gives him 3. She gives him 3.
Okay, now imagine it's the end of days. Gimli's still there because he's been living in the Undying Lands. Feanor comes back from the halls of Mandos. He's like, "What's up, bitches?" They're like, "Fuck you, Feanor." And he's like, "Galadriel, did you change your mind?" And she's like, "Not only that, here's a dwarf. I gave him 3.
And he's going to set them in imperishable crystal to be an emblem of friendship between the mountain and the wood till the end of days. Which means that he probably is going to leave them behind, which means that Middle-earth has 3 shining jewels. Even though Feanor did. Because, and I'm thinking he wouldn't bring them along to the Undying Lands because of the blessing she gives him. Your hands shall flow with gold, yet over you gold will have no dominion. He's not going to have a greed for anything.
Which is also incredibly meaningful when you think about the entirety of the story of Feanor, that's the blessing she gives him.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I hope it's true. I'll probably try to look it up at some point. I feel like no, we've got 5 minutes.
We've got 3, but yes. High princes were Feanor and Fingolfin, the elder sons of Finwë, honored by all in Aman. But now they grew proud and jealous, each of his rights and his possessions. Then Melkor set new lies abroad in Eldamar, and whispers came to Feanor that Fingolfin and his sons were planning to usurp the leadership of Finwë and of the elder line of Feanor, and to supplant them by the leave of the Valar. For the Valar were ill-pleased that the Silmarils lay in Tirion and were not committed to their keeping. But to Fingolfin and Finarfin, it was said,
Team Finarfin!
We are Team Finarfin, because notice, Feanor and Fingolfin grew proud and jealous. It does not say that Finarfin grew jealous.
Finarfin rocks. So far.
But to him also it was said, Beware, small love has the proud son of Miriel ever had for the children of Indis. Now he has become great, and he has his father in his hand. It will not be long before he drives you forth from Tuna. And I can tell you, it's not fun to be driven forth from Tuna.
Oh, yeah, you had a bout of being driven forth from Tuna yourself, didn't you?
I did. And when Melkor... Yeah. And when Melkor saw that these lies were smoldering, and that pride and anger were awake among the Noldor, he spoke to them concerning weapons. And in that time the Noldor began the smithying of swords and axes and spears. Shields also they made, displaying the tokens of many houses and kindreds that vied one with another. And these only they wore abroad, and of other weapons they did not speak, for each believed that he alone had received the warning. And you gotta hand it to Melkor, that's pretty good.
Yeah, yep. He's thorough.
and Feanor made a secret forge of which not even Melkor was aware. And there he tempered fell swords for himself and for his sons, and made tall helms with plumes of red. Bitterly did Mahtan rue the day that he had taught to the husband of Nerdanel all the lore of metalwork that he had learned of Aule.
Well, I mean, you can rue it all you like, but that's not really where the evil came in, is it?
No, like them knowing metalwork wasn't the problem. Them being swayed by Melkor to start making weapons because they all believed that someone was going to betray them is the problem.
Oh man, it's a libertarianism in paradise. How fucking sad.
It really is, and that's a great way to put it because like it's that whole idea that everyone is against you all the time and they're only being held back by like authority,
The government.
basically. The government. Yeah. Exactly. He's turning them all into doomsday preppers is what he's doing.
Yep. And the thing about being a doomsday prepper is that if you don't find a doomsday, you're probably going to make one.
Or you're going to try.
Right.
And also the idea that everyone has of how people will, like the Mad Max idea of what it would be like if there was no government is so, like, provably opposite to the way people actually act in dire situations that it just... Yeah. We're culturally in love with an apocalypse that just doesn't make any sense.
It does not. It does not, and it wouldn't work. So I know of two real world experiments that were Lord of the Flies like. One that was accidental and one that was deliberate. The deliberate one was adults giving a dozen boys an empty building with plenty of bedding, plenty of food, and said, you all have to survive here together for a month. And within 48 hours, the place was absolutely chaos, broken windows, and they were like, oh, see, Lord of the Flies, it was right. It was real. But what those people didn't take into account was that they didn't remove authority. They lended authority to chaos. Like, that was dumb because that wasn't the experiment they thought they were doing. Whereas the 6 boys who stole a boat, did you hear about that one?
Yeah, they got stuck on an island together for like a year.
15 months. 15 months. And one of them broke his leg and they set it and took care of him. They called him king of the island so he wouldn't feel bad that he wasn't contributing and had to be carried around everywhere. They fed each other. They defended each other. It wasn't like they were the bestest of friends to begin with. They were just like out on an adventure and got screwed. That's where authority was removed, and that's where the experiment was real. Like,
yeah, well, cooperation is our most evolutionarily like adaptive trait. That doesn't change just because whatever.
And it's funny how cooperation builds a world that feels so stable that people can start questioning whether cooperation is necessary. It's like, read history and you'll realize this isn't. Yeah.
Or just, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's 8:03. I'm gonna go.
All right. What was the line? What was the absolute mic drop line? He who sows lies.
Let's see. He that sows lies in the end shall not lack of a harvest, and soon he may rest from toil indeed, while others reap and sow in his stead.
Damn.
Words
of warning. We should heed them.
All
right. Listen to the Melkors.
Yeah.
I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Cuidado.
Cuidamas.